But blacks commit more crimes than whites do. They commit more murders, they commit more arsons, they commit more kidnappings.
Part of the issue with Kirk is that Kirk was a 31-year-old man preying on undergraduate students who are not experts in speaking on these points. And then he would conflate, he would lie, he would come up with false statistics. Let me show you how he would just speak fake data. Listen to this.
Black Americans are about 13 to 14% of the population.
Yes,
about half of all prisoners are black.
Exactly.
So blacks commit more crimes than whites do. They commit more murders, they commit more arsons, they commit more kidnappings. For example, blacks are 13% of the population and they commit 58% of all the murders.
Okay, let's talk about it. These are obviously racist claims, but I will respond to them as if Charlie Kirk were a reasonable person.
Black Americans are about 13 to 14% of the population.
Yes,
about half of all prisoners are black.
Wrong. Just 38% of America's prison population is black. That's according to the US government. But it makes
I wanted to add this in here because this was one thing that I didn't hear him specifically say in his video. The amount of people serving time in jail or who are picked up by the police does not mean that that's representative of these people committing more crimes. What is it about the roundup process that makes the people who are rounding up choose to round up more black people, to prosecute them, to put them in jail? We've heard the name Brock Turner throw up a 3. Brock Turner was the guy who was sexually assaulting a woman behind a dumpster. He was caught. People saw him and beat him off of the unconscious woman. He got 6 months in prison. Why? Because the good old boy judge said that he didn't feel that the boy's whole life should be ruined for a few moments of fun, even though that few moments of his fun showed the sick, depraved mind that this man had. So they are not policing these communities as heavily. I remember when I was in my 20s, I went to this party in Midtown Manhattan. And at the party, there was a guy who was connected in politics. He was a college student, but he was connected in politics. He was someone's son. At this party, now the party was wild and filled with foolishness. Like, these people have a facade over people's eyes. Like, you don't really know what's going on behind the doors in some of these places. Well, nonetheless, at this party, I was hired. Someone that I knew was a bartender and they needed more than one person to tend bars at the party. So I came along. At this party, they had trays of cocaine, trays mounted. Like, you ever saw Scarface? They had trays, mountains of cocaine. There were trays of it passing around and people were just doing whatever it is that they were doing. All of that, right? And woo! And all of that, dancing around and acting the damn fool. I saw this SHIT. I said, I gotta get the hell up out of here. It was getting close to the top of a particular hour, and they had pickles inside these plastic bags that were on ice in the bartender's area, right? And they came and got the pickles, and they were like, you know, ladies, you can go on and leave now because there's some things going on. So I just want you to stop right now and check, make sure that you're still subscribed. And if you were never subscribed, this is your wake-up call or your call to action. Make sure that you're subscribed. Things are about to get a little interesting, right? The son, the politically connected young man, I don't want to say too much. I'll just say he was a fencer, right? This mother effer took off all his damn clothes and he was getting into these I'll never forget it. I will never forget it. He was getting into these fencing stances, and I don't know nothing about fencing because he was down low, and in these, he was screaming out some phrases and some terms, and he was going forward, and he was going backwards, and he was down low in a squat, y'all. He was down low, and he was like inching forward, inching backwards, and he was screaming out these terms. I don't know what the terms were, but I figure people in his inner circle who may do fencing as well know these terms. But this mother effer was butt, booty, white skin, naked, I'm telling you, with a little pee-pee flapping around. Like, if you've ever seen those old statues of David with the little thing up in the front, it was wiggling around in the little front, and he was doing his little thing. And then so when they came and got the pickles, right, from the ice, and they were like, ladies, you know, you can go on and you get paid and go on and head out, right? I was like, yeah, it's time for us to damn go, right? I was like, yeah, it's time for us to go, because the man was already naked, and they were saying they were going to do some stuff with the pickles that was not, copacetic. I don't know what they was going to do, but nonetheless, right? When I got out of that, like, I ran out of there, all this cocaine, all this stuff, naked pickles, all this stuff. And I was like, so I'm from the Bronx, like I grew up in the Bronx, right? And so I'm used to the police sirens, the lights, all this stuff, right? I was like, the police are gonna bust in here at any moment. I was like, there's shit going down in here. I was like, the police are gonna bust in. I was like, I can get the F up out of here. I get outside, right? It was quiet as a mother effer. When I tell you it was, because it was ruckus up there. I thought the police were going to burst in at any moment. When I got downstairs and outside, it was like the lights were twinkling. The breeze was cool and blowing. Wasn't a police officer in sight. Not a car, not a nothing. I was so distraught, I took a cab all the way back home from downtown. As I got closer, so you go from downtown Manhattan, then you get up to Harlem, then you cross over to the Bronx, then from the Bronx there's Queens, right? As we started going further and further uptown, that's when you started hearing the damn sirens. I said, mother effers, the drugs is down there. They got it out on a tray in the open. I'm like, you up here with your sirens flashing, there's a tray of coke down there. And then the further I got up into the Bronx, the more lights I heard, the more cars driving past, all of this. And I said, wow, wasn't a car downtown, none, but multiple sirens all over the place starting. They could have had a bunch of people arrested in that apartment, but no, they didn't get arrested, did they? None of them. I can imagine that boy is in politics right now, that he's a grown man now, and that he's in politics somewhere. That's why I don't want to say too much, because I'm sure he is, because he had the complexion for the connection. So when they start talking about, oh, you demographic were arrested, so that means you do more crimes. No. More of them were rounded up. Why? Why were they targeted for the roundup? Why were other people not targeted? Data shows that across the board, from race to race, that people smoke weed at the same rate. But there were more Black people incarcerated for it than anyone else. Why? Why and how? But these are the sophisticated questions that are too nuanced. But a person like Charlie Kirk is not going to capable minds. He's going and he's pushing his talking points to people who don't have the ability to refute it. Listen, y'all laughing about these pickles. I did not know what those pickles were going to be used for. And to this day, I don't want to effing know. I don't want to know. Let's continue going forward.
You wonder why Charlie feels the need to add an additional 12% to the Black prison population. Could it be because his bigoted talking points only work if he exaggerates them? If Charlie were actually looking for the race that makes up half the prison population in the US, he'd look no further than white people at 57%.
Exactly. So Blacks commit more crimes than whites do.
Wrong. The word "so" is doing a lot of heavy lifting in that sentence.
Exactly. So Blacks commit more crimes.
He's saying "so" as in therefore, as in one could conclude, but Charlie knows he's lying. Even if he hadn't just lied about the Black prison population, Charlie is smart enough to know that correlation does not equal causation, but he's hoping that you don't know that. So he deploys the word "so" to make you think he's coming to an obvious conclusion.
Exactly. So Blacks.
Instead, he's making an illogical, racist leap. Charlie knows that we don't have usable data about who commits crimes. It's impossible to have that data since so many crimes go both unreported and or unsolved. Charlie knows that we only have data about arrests.
Black Americans, about 13 to 14.
So,
hey Knockout, thanks for watching. This video filled your cup, so be sure to return the favor by making sure that you're subscribed and watching one of the other videos. QR code in the middle gives you my personal link.